want you to imagine the future nightmare if Trump's back in office. I'm serious.
He made clear his fight is not for the people. His fight is for himself.
And so the idea that he would be the president again is astounding. He shouldn't be within 100 miles of the White House.
It kind of feels like a general election campaign, doesn't it? The Biden team now sticking to a playbook, using Donald Trump as a political punching bag. But Bill Maher saying that all that focus on Trump might miss the point in America now.
It's not a great strategy to run a Democratic campaign based on how can they like this guy. Some people just do.
Well, OutKick founder Clay Travis here with me today. Clay, good morning to you. Want to take viewers back 2 weeks ago. Jamie Dimon flew to Davos. Wasn't asked the question, but he offered this answer without being prompted.
I wish the Democrats would think a little more carefully when they talk about MAGA. The Democrats have done a pretty good job with the deplorables, hugging onto their Bibles and their beer and their guns. I mean, really? Like, could we just stop that stuff and actually grow up and treat other people with respect and listen to them a little bit? And I do think the economy will affect, and I think this negative talk about MAGA is going to hurt Biden's election campaign.
Look, it's my impression that a lot of people are being a little more direct about this. Maher's one of them, Dimon's another. What do you think of it?
I think ultimately what Democrats are going to try to do, and thanks for having me on, Bill and Dana, is disguise from the fact that 75% of Americans, that's Democrats, Republicans, independent, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, 75% of Americans don't think that Biden has the mental or physical fitness to be president of the United States. And so attacking Trump for anything ultimately takes away from the question that is being asked: does Joe Biden deserve another 4 years of president of the United States? Has he done a good job on the border? Has he done a good job on crime? Has he done a good job on inflation? Do you feel in your own trips to the grocery store that you are paying substantially more and have less in your pocket than you did before he became president? And all of these things, not to mention war in Ukraine and war in the Middle East right now, the death, unfortunately and tragically, that we just saw of 3 servicemen as a result of what's going on in the Middle East. Joe Biden has brought more chaos than Donald Trump ever did, and he isn't up to the job. And I just heard Dana say she was talking with moms. The conversations that I hear from everybody is just everything feels unsettled. And what Biden ultimately told America when he ran in 2020, remember he said the adults will be back in charge. I'll return normalcy to the White House. Does anybody feel like America feels normal today? And in 9 months, a little bit over 9 months, I think the reason that Joe Biden is going to have incredible difficulty in getting people to show up and vote for him is because he's failed on all the promises that he made.
Well, okay, so the deal with Iran could just get worse. I mean, that's the ominous sign that we take away from over the weekend. Here's AOC on Meet the Press, NBC yesterday.
Do you think in this very moment, President Biden is doing a good enough job explaining to voters why they should vote for him and not just against former President Trump?
I think we can certainly do more to be advancing our vision. And I believe that we have a strong vision that we can run on.
It goes from there, Clay. And on the issues that you just ticked off, I mean, take it back domestically, on the economy. You know, there's a piece out over the weekend suggesting that, you know, pitching Bidenomics may not have worked, but maybe the economy lifts itself and they don't have to sell it. And Americans feel as if their lives are getting better in turn. And that's a card that the White House could be playing, Clay.
How about that AOC answer? I think when you get an answer like that, she knows it's coming on Meet the Press. I mean, this wasn't her walking outside of a building and suddenly getting hit with a question and not being prepared for it. She didn't endorse Biden very strongly there at all in his response. And Bill, I think you can't underrate the way that many Americans have seen the response since October 7th on college campuses. And while young people may not be happy with Joe Biden, I mean, again, I just said 75% of people don't think he's physically or mentally able to do the job. It's not just young people. I do think a lot of people who are adults out of college, people in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s out there, were stunned to see the level of anti-Semitism and just what the campuses are like now. And it's not only that Joe Biden isn't popular with students, said a lot of student opinions on what happened on October 7th on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict has got a lot of moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas upset. And I think that works against Joe Biden as well, because people are, for the first time ever, sitting back and saying, how in the world did these conversations end up happening? How did the AOCs of the world, how has that generation come to not be able to see what good and evil is? That also, I think, works against Biden.
How about that couple walking out of the synagogue in New York over the weekend? I mean, just heckled for a block and a half.
I know.
People throwing water. I was just unbelievable. Bill Maher said the kids Bill Maher said the kids love Hamas. Hold on to that, all right? Hold on to that as we get closer to November. Clay, nice to see you. We'll see you in Vegas in a couple weeks.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.